Good afternoon, everyone. John Harper with you on this Wednesday. It's Helping Seniors of Brevard time, and let's get things underway as I introduce the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization. Here is none other than Kerry Fink.
Hey, John Harper, thank you. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. It's an exciting day. Beautiful weather outside, and it's just a nice day. We always love the opportunity to get together Wednesdays lunchtime right here on 90.3 FM WEJF for Helping Seniors Radio. And also welcome to listeners who are joining us online at wejf.net and those who will catch this later as a podcast. Literally everywhere podcasts are available, from Apple iTunes to Hey Alexa and on down the line from there. So, on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, we have a really good show for today. And I titled this, you're going to understand why in a moment. We titled today's program, in thinking about it, we wanted to get today's program set up for you around the topic of timing is everything. And why do I say that? Because our experts are in the house today. First of all, let me welcome longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. It is none other than Barbara McIntyre with Reverse Mortgage Funding. And she is, for me, for sure, the go-to answer person when it comes to all these questions. You see TV commercials and it says, now is the time to tap the equity into your home and things like that. And I always love to introduce you this way, Barbara, by saying that you really had to get Joe Steckler, our president, up to speed, because he was a little bit skeptical, like a lot of people are. Maybe they heard some bad things about reverse mortgages, and you really have gone out of your way to educate and say, number one, this is not that, and here's how this really can benefit for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kerry. It's so nice to be here with you, and you're right. I very much enjoy the opportunity to continue to answer questions for boomers and seniors, anyone nearing retirement, thinking about how to get through life today with, high costs and sometimes mortgage payments and not enough money.
Right.
So the product that I represent is just another resource, and I love giving people the information. So.
Right. And I think the reason that I think this is going to fit so well with our topic of timing is everything, because as we're all aware of gyrations in the market, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with home values, we're going to really explore how the timing is right now for reverse mortgages. And our other guest that I'm really happy to welcome in today is a friend of the Helping Seniors organization. His name is Jerry Hadlock Jr. And the more I get to talk with him, the more I am impressed with his grasp of expertise on all things Medicare. And the reason timing is everything is right now we're in the middle of the annual enrollment period. This is that time of year when mailboxes get stuffed with all these offers, and you're trying to pick through fine print and try to figure out what makes sense and what doesn't. And, why not ask an expert? Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. We're right. We're getting close to the end of annual enrollment. December the 7th is the deadline.
Right.
And my phone is ringing off the hook, and I've got about 4 appointments a day, so it's pretty hectic. But I can still help people make decisions. A lot of them are on drug plans that want to navigate. I helped a couple the other day. They saved them $500 a month.
Yeah, it's so important. And I really want to get into this because this really is a timing is everything kind of thing, because you really have until, what is it, December 7th? Is
Yes.
that's what,
Yes,
yeah.
the deadline.
So even though we got Thanksgiving and all these other things, you don't want to miss this window of opportunity. So we're really going to talk a little bit more about all of that as we keep going. Before we get there, though, I wanted to say to Barbara, I think you were out of town and didn't get to be there at all the festivities of the Helping Seniors car raffle. And I know you and I have not seen each other since then. So did you hear the outcome?
Actually, I didn't. I've been looking and I haven't seen
Jerry, you were there, weren't you?
No, I didn't make it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, so let's talk about the outcome of the
yeah.
Helping
I wanna hear.
Seniors car raffle. So,
I know it wasn't me.
I was going to say.
I didn't get the call.
Right, where's my car at? That's all I got to say.
I have good news for both of you. There will be a 7th annual Helping Seniors car raffle,
Okay.
and you have yet another shot.
Okay,
right.
that
All right.
works.
Okay.
Sounds
so
good.
so back to this one though. First of all, a very big thank you to everybody who made this possible. I know you guys, both of you guys, were helping us get tickets and get interest in it. This is the fundraiser that really keeps us going into next year. And I know we had talked, our volunteer board had said, let's set a goal of can we raise $100,000, which is literally about half of what it takes to make Helping Seniors go each year. We run very lean and mean frugal. Everything is donated that can be. There are just some things that can't be. And so we try to be really efficient with the resources that you entrust us with. In fact, and it's interesting, I was just talking with Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, this morning. And she said, Kerry, do you know how many calls we took last month? And she goes, it was over 600. Wow. So it was another record. So just by way of history, when Joe established the county senior information helpline through Helping Seniors in 2011, we were taking like 100 calls a month or something like that. Last year, about this time, we were taking about 250 calls a month. And so what I said is kind of like it's an interesting thing. It's good and it's bad. It's good because people know that they can call us. We're going to try to help them. It's bad because we are getting so many calls from seniors with so many desperate situations, which makes our work even the more important. Mm-hmm. So back to the car raffle. That really has become over the years our big fundraiser. Joe and AJ Hires got together back. Joe said he goes, Kerry, it was the last century. It was like 1996, and he was trying to get Joe's clubs built for Brevard Alzheimer's, and they came up with the idea of the car raffle as a fundraiser because it would get everybody's attention and people would understand we got to support the charity. Here's a fun way to do it. So literally. In, I guess, 6 years ago, it was probably 7 because of planning, Joe said, AJ is going to help us do that again. And so this has now become an annual tradition. So here's the point. We get out there Saturday, October 29th at Mark Pylock's astounding American Muscle Car Museum. That thing has grown over the years, too. He's got now about 400 cars in there. Mm-hmm. You may have heard about the tragic accident that Jay Leno was going through, and I were reporting in the news because I heard him say that Jay has 250 cars. So when we say that Mark has the largest collection in North America with 400 cars, I mean, this is the place to be. How fortunate are we that we have that as a resource in our community, and how even more fortunate are we that Mark is philanthropic and says, look, I want to help the seniors in our community. I will open up this museum for you guys to have your car drawing. I will even take care of the food, the beverage, so you guys don't have to out-of-pocket anything on that. I mean, this makes this whole thing possible. But here's the report. So we had well over 20. We lost count at 2,500 people being out there. Wow. Mark actually had some of his folks go out and count the number of cars, and apparently we set a record. He said there was over 1,150 cars parked on their property that evening. Wow. And so when we got up there, and Mark's lovely wife, Tatiana, reached into the barrel, they spun it around, made sure it was all set, and then she reaches in and pulls out a ticket. So Mark, who is like the best showman ever about this, he gets up there and he starts reading the number. And so it gets to the last number and it's all quiet. So we're thinking like, okay, the winner is not in town. It's, we'll have to call him and see if we can reach him. And then over in the corner, we hear a commotion because it was just like in 2019 when our winner was there. She was looking at it and kind of got like, and everybody around us like, this is you. You won. And so,
how cool.
So she came up. Her name is Gail McGinnis. She's a Brevard County resident. She was here locally. So Mark congratulates her and then asks her, right up, which car do you pick? Because if you remember, you could take a Dodge Challenger, Dodge Camaro, you could take a Chevy Camaro, you could take a Kia Sportage, or you could take a Mazda Miata. So guess which one she took?
The Miata.
Jerry, your guess?
I think the Dodge.
So she just lifts up her hand, yells out, "It's the Camaro!" So she's now driving her lovely, brand new, Helping Seniors Camaro. And she actually posted a thing back out on Facebook where we had posted some photos, and she goes, "I can't wait to bring it back next year," which is exactly what we love, because Karen Hoodless, who was our 2019 winner, she chose the Dodge Challenger. So she's brought that car back every time we do an event. In fact, she was there when we did Dodge versus Chevy Challenge. So this will be fun. I said to Jennifer Barton, who is Seniors Helping Seniors, and she's the leader of Team Dodge, I said, well, now that's 2 for Chevy and 1 for Dodge, so you're going to have to even it up somehow. She said, we're ready. So,
I love watching the challenges. Those girls are just too funny.
So it's a lot of fun. And the kindest thing was that literally on his way out the door that evening, Mark said, y'all put this on your calendar for next year. So there will be 7th annual Helping Seniors
Perfect.
car raffle. But I really want to tell everybody who's listening that got a ticket, that has helped us keep this going, thank you, because we could not do what we do if you didn't get in and help us. So with that, we're going to shift gears and kind of jump right into the conversation. Let's start, Barb, with talking a little bit about the reverse mortgage side of this, because, we turn on the news, we hear all this stuff, people trying to sort out what happens in elections, what this means. Is the market going up? Is the market going down? What's happening with inflation? All these things are very tough for us as homeowners to try to figure out what the future holds. And you kind of got an ear to the ground because you see what goes on in the reverse mortgage business. And I didn't know this until the last time we talked, that you actually have to be knowledgeable about regular mortgages to be able to work with reverse mortgages. So you really have the full background.
Well, you have to have a good understanding, I have to say, though, because I'm exclusively work with reverse mortgages. I probably am not as up on what's going on in the forward mortgage world, as I call it. But I do have an overall view about interest rates, which are up across the board.
Yeah.
Now, with reverse mortgages, the benefit to them these days are because of the uncertainty that we just talked about with the economy and, just with rates. What people are finding is using a reverse mortgage to pay off an existing mortgage so they don't have the requirement of a principal and interest payment. That really helps their budget, and it helps them be able to manage getting through these leaner times. Another amazing use that we're seeing all the time is that people who are fortunate and have funds in retirement accounts, portfolios, they don't want to be drawing funds out of those invested monies when the market is down.
Right.
Because you're already retired, so you can't wait for that to recover and replace itself. So if you have in place a reverse mortgage, you can use it strategically to draw funds that you need to live and leave your portfolio, your invested money, your retirement, 401ks, IRAs alone. And then we saw this past week, we had a great bounce back in the market. So, that's the thing, up, down, and it's
right.
a crazy world right now. So there's so many uses. And then talking about medical care and that being a huge concern. I mean, saving someone $500, that's awesome in their insurance cost. And being able to use reverse funds to have home health services or do other things to help supplement the cost of care, because again, that's one of the largest expenses retirees face today. So, everything reverse, there's never a bad time to look at it, because whether you're looking at it in preparation of retirement or whether you're fully retired and you're saying, you know what, values in homes have gone up, the incline is slowed down, but they certainly haven't depreciated. It's still a very good time always to look at this product and be educated. So that's what I do.
Yeah, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as I try to assimilate the different things that you've taught over the years, and I mean there is a lot. If you're new to this, go to helpingseniors@brevard.org. There's a lot of TV programs that we've done together over the years. Radio shows are all archived there. The print columns that you've contributed into the Helping Seniors News, they're all there. So there's a great great resource. I kind of call it a great library of everything senior that's available to you. You can get it at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. But if I assimilated some of this correctly, what I thought seems like it makes timing important to consider this now is the first issue would be the home values, right?
Correct.
So you can take advantage of the fact that the market has gone up, because a lot of people said, boy, I wish I could sell my home right now for what it's worth, but then I just have to buy one and it's going to cost, I'd be right back in the other side of it.
That's right.
But this is a kind of way to have your cake and eat it too.
You better believe it, because now you've tapped into the equity while your home has a higher value. And with reverse mortgages, interestingly, even if the value starts to pull back, even if we did see a decline in housing value, it's not going to take away the benefit you've been promised in the mortgage.
Right.
So unlike a bank's HELOC, home equity line of credit, if you see a depreciation in the value of the home, you actually could have your bank send you a letter and say, sorry, we're not going to let you borrow on this line of credit anymore because your house isn't worth as much. That does not happen in a reverse mortgage. You have secured your access to the benefit based on the appraisal at the time you do the mortgage, and it can't be reduced, called due, or canceled at any time.
Right. And then the other advantage, tell me if I get this right, is that at the time you leave your home, whether it's because you're now doing something different and it's time to repay it, or you've gone on to your great reward and now your family is trying to work through everything to make sure that it all settles out okay. The cool thing that I understand is that in the reverse mortgage, doesn't matter what the house is worth, that's it. So if, for example, like we saw in the great real estate recession where you might be upside down in your loan, it really doesn't matter, because at that point, that's done. But if you had like a traditional mortgage and you were upside down, they're still going to be trying to sort that out, right?
Right. Deficiency judgments are passed on to an estate in a regular forward mortgage. In a reverse mortgage, it's very unique in that only the value of the home is ever responsible for repayment.
Right.
So if the value is less than the debt that's owed, then that's where the FHA insurance comes in, and the lender does not expect the heirs or the estate to pay in the difference. It's only what the house can repay. In the markets we've seen over the last number of years, we haven't seen deficiencies. What we've seen is additional equity above the debt,
right,
which immediately goes to the estate. Property sold, mortgage is paid off, the additional equity is now in the estate. The heirs divvy it up, and off they go.
Yeah, and I was going to say, isn't that really maybe even the takeaway lesson from everything that happened in 2008 and that period of time, is that if you could survive through that, your house value was fine. So the key was that you didn't get buried by the problems with mortgages at that time.
Right.
So the more likely effect is not that the house value is going to go down. Even if it went down temporarily, it's still probably going to rebound.
Exactly.
And so even what you borrowed on a reverse mortgage is not that likely to impact what you hope to leave to your kids.
You're
or whatever.
exactly right. Back in 2008, I remember, watching my modest home value go up, 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 up.
Right.
And I did not do a cash out refi like so many people did. So then I saw it come down, 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 down.
And you were glad.
But I hadn't ever done anything besides buy it in the beginning.
Right.
And now right back up. So you're right. When you have a HECM, a home equity conversion mortgage, the property value can go up and down, and it's not going to affect the mortgage. So, it's just a really solid and secure and guaranteed by the federal government. So some of the things people are concerned about is generally falsehoods that they just haven't gotten clarified.
Right. And then I think there was another point that you brought up. As you said, a lot of people, if they're smart, because you can move into this marketplace, I think you said at age 62 for the FHA insured. And you actually have resources even before that if somebody is looking for other things. But at 62, you said it makes sense to maybe go ahead and put it in place, even if you don't use it, because there's a growth aspect too.
Correct.
That happens to your credit line over time, right?
Absolutely. And I'll use myself as an example. When I turned 62, did a reverse mortgage on my home up in Suntree. I'm still working, so I really didn't need additional funds
Right.
to supplement income, but I left the benefit in what's called a line of credit. And because of the growth that is built into this mortgage, that available equity is compounding and growing over the years as I grow older living in that house. And my plan is when I'm in my 80s and it's 3 times as much as it was when I did it.
Wow.
It will be a resource for my long-term health care plan
Right.
because I don't have a policy and now I'm too old to buy one because
Right.
it's too expensive. So I've basically self-funded by the use of the reverse mortgage line of credit. Another really good use.
Yeah, as we talk about this, I think I was saying to Jerry Hadlock, who's Medicare, and we're gonna talk really in the second half of the show and really get into some nuts and bolts about that. But I was saying to Jerry, I said one of the things that we had set out at the beginning of this year as our goal for helping seniors was we titled this year Getting Your Ducks in a Row, which Joe Steckler, our president and founder, talks about. He calls it an aging plan, but all he's trying to do. Here we go. We just all survived another hurricane here, right? So we understand what a hurricane plan is. It's like, what do you do if it's bearing down on you? It doesn't mean you want the hurricane. You just want to be ready. And that's what Joe's talking about with the aging plan or getting your ducks in a row. But what I was saying to Jerry, too, is that what we've learned along the way, and I think it's going to be our theme for next year, is don't try this on your own. Because we don't have, like we see a famous actor on TV and he says, oh, you should get a reverse mortgage. But he doesn't know what's going on here in Brevard County. You really need somebody who is local, who's in tune with the economy, who knows the neighborhoods, who understands what's going on, who has the care and the compassion about what's happening locally to really guide somebody through it. Because you can get, I'm sure if you send off or call an 800 number, you get all this stuff in the mail. You get this nice, pretty package. It's got these pictures, and then there's always a little pamphlet that has all this fine print that nobody ever reads, right?
Usually.
And that's probably where the problems start, right?
Right. And the other thing is that uses are so varied. Just in the last few minutes, we've talked about so many different ways to use a reverse mortgage that when you're just talking, responding to a TV commercial and you aren't really sitting down with somebody, it's really hard to tailor it to exactly what you need. And that's the real critical thing with this product.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because I was talking with Jerry before the show, and I said, we're really going to dive into, because you see all these commercials right now. Call 1-800 and we're going to help you with your Medicare.
Yeah.
And we were both sharing a couple of horror stories before the show. We're going to get into that in the second half of the show. But Barbara, if somebody is interested in what we're talking about and they say, yeah, I do want to at least check out and see here's my situation. This is what I owe on the house. Because we've even talked about it can be a way to stop paying your mortgage.
Absolutely.
And or maybe you're just strapped on taxes and insurance, which keeps going up and things like that.
Right. A resource to pay those bills. And I love talking, as you can see. So I always encourage anybody with any interest and absolutely no obligation to give me a call anytime, and I will just get a tiny bit of information and then tell you what you could expect the mortgage to do for you.
Yeah.
And my phone number is 321-259-7880.
All right. And Barbara McIntyre with Reverse Mortgage Funding, getting everybody a moment to grab a pencil so that they can jot this number. Say it one more time.
It's 321-259-7880.
All right. And so that's what we're talking about today. Timing is everything. And I would hate for you to miss a window. Who knows what next year brings? Do house prices go up? Do they come down? I'm not a betting person, but it seems like it's a good time to really look into the reverse mortgage. And we're going to talk about why it's such an important time to get a hold of everything going on with your Medicare questions. And we're going to talk with Jerry Hadlock next on Helping Seniors.
And it's good to hear that music indicating it's time to get back to the second half of our program for today, Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's do that right now as I reintroduce the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director. Here's Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thank you. And thank you, listener, for joining us for the second half of the Helping Seniors radio gathering every Wednesday, lunchtime, 12 noon to 1 p.m. right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And hello again to those listening online, WEJF.com. brevard.net, and to those who catch this later as a podcast. Our theme today is timing is everything. And if you missed the first part of the radio conversation with Barbara McIntyre, reverse mortgage funding, reverse mortgage expert, you want to go back and pick that up, because we put everything out on, we have a Helping Seniors YouTube channel, we have a Helping Seniors Facebook page, and we also have Helping Seniors of Brevard.org that you can access and find all these. And then if you're on podcast, you can go back and look at the whole library. But we had a really good conversation about why the timing might be right at this moment for reverse mortgage stuff. So, but in that same window of opportunity, and maybe even a little bit more time sensitive, I wouldn't say maybe a little bit, I would say extremely time sensitive, because there is a hard and fast deadline of December 7th. What we're talking about is something that Medicare calls, and tell me if I'm saying this right, our guest is Jerry Hadlock Jr., who's a Medicare expert, but they call it annual enrollment period. What does that mean if we're new to Medicare and we don't really even know that term?
So the annual enrollment basically is a time from October 15th to December the 7th. You're allowed to evaluate your drug plan, your Advantage plan, and make changes if you'd like to. You could change every day if you wanted to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But December the 7th, it's a deadline, so whatever you've chosen will usually start on 1/1 of 23, and that's the plan you'll have for the next year.
You know, and I think there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of dynamics in our county that make this conversation we're going to have very important, because number one, let's talk about the number of people that are moving to Florida every week. Okay, so there's lots of people who may have been familiar with their programs that might have been available to them if they were, from up north or Midwest or something like that. Yes. Then they get to Florida, and it's a different world. The other thing that happens is so many people are turning 65 because America is graying, however you want to say it. Yes. So particularly in our area, where we often, as Helping Seniors of Brevard, as a nonprofit charity, one of our jobs is to wake people up and go, did you know 1 in 4 people in Brevard County is over 65? And when you turn 50, AARP is going to mail you a card and call you a senior, whether you like it or not. So that's one of 2 of us, okay? So you really have to be sensitive to this. And I always think of open enrollment, annual enrollment period as that time when your mailbox just gets flooded with stuff. But now I'd even add a corollary to that, because you can't turn on your TV set without some famous person going, oh, just tell us your zip code and we'll help you out. Yes. And I'm sure the motivation is good. But just like what we were talking with Barbara in the first part of the show, you're calling a call center, I don't know, in Omaha, Nebraska.
Correct. Yes.
And what do they know about Brevard County and the uniqueness of it? This is a weird county, right? Because 72 miles north to south, you have 3, I really think we're 3 counties, right? Because you have Palm Bay in the south, then you have Melbourne and West Melbourne, all kind of in the center. And we get up to the space, really the Space Coast part of it, where you're talking Titusville and all that. Yes. And people in Palm Bay don't drive to Titusville to go see a doctor, and vice versa.
Right.
So if you don't know the territory and you're just looking at a map, you might think, oh, well, no problem. You have a doctor over here, and let's get you set up with that. And it's not that they don't care. It's just they don't know.
No, they don't know. They don't know the area. And I was born and raised here. So
yeah.
I know this area backwards and forwards. So if someone is in Palm Bay, I agree. They're not going to go to Titusville to see doctors, and vice versa. So you need to kind of make it towards where you are, your zip code, your area, and your doctors. And a little head note about moving here. I had a gentleman a while back. He moved here. If you're out of a service area for 6 months, they'll disenroll you from your plan.
Oh.
Some people don't know that.
Wow.
Now, it was a drug plan for him.
Uh-huh.
Now, they send you notices in the mail, but I guess he ignored them and just threw them out.
Or if you moved, maybe you didn't get them.
That's the other thing. It could have been going to the other address. Yeah. I don't know. But I went out and saw him. He was upset with me, but it wasn't my fault that you didn't, right? But I couldn't get him back into another drug plan until this period, annual enrollment. Wow. So for a few months there, he had no Part D, as in David, all because he'd moved out of the service area. So if someone moves into an new area, they should look at the drug plan or an Advantage plan in their new area.
Yeah, this is so important what you're talking about. And it goes right back to the thing we were talking about in the first half of the show, which is number one, let's get your ducks in a row, which means getting ahead of the problem. That's why we're talking right now. This is planning for 2023. So even if you thought I'm okay with my plan from
Right.
2022.
Yes.
Stuff has changed, and you
Yes.
can't just assume it's going to work the same for you next year, right?
No, So I have a few people. They'll say to me, "Well, my drug plan was great this year. I don't need to look at it." That's not totally true, because a drug plan can drop on their formulary certain medications. Right. They can add certain. They can move it from a tier 1 to a tier 3. You don't even know it.
Right.
They're supposed to notify you by mail, but there again, not everyone reads their mail. So I've had a few people going into the next year, January 1, they go down to the pharmacy. Oh, the drug that used to be covered is no longer covered. But they
Gosh.
should have known that.
Yeah, and what a shock that would be.
It is
get
a
your
shock.
prescription, find out it's going to cost 3 times more.
Exactly, because now you're on the hook for that medication. Right. So and all they had to do is something very simple. I usually use Medicare.gov. I'll go in, I'll see if their medications are covered by their drug plan, and I'll even do a comparison. So we'll compare the plan they have to maybe a new plan for next year. Usually you'll save a little money.
You know, I was smiling as you were talking about that, because I think about, they always send you a big postcard saying, it's renewal time. They always send you like this little tiny print that says, by the way, this is no longer covered.
Right, exactly.
and I go, this is exactly why the corollary to getting your ducks in a row and planning ahead is, don't try this on your own. Just like we were talking with you, Barbara, at the first part of the show, and we're talking with Jerry, and we're talking about this, like, why on earth do you want to try to become a subject matter expert when you can sit down with somebody? Jerry, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this 13 years, and it's all I do. I do it full time. That's another thing. A lot of agents will jump into this little period of time. They're selling life insurance all year, and they'll jump into annual enrollment. I'm not going to say that they don't know everything. You know, they know enough to do their part, but I've had it where they make mistakes, where I'm not perfect either, but I know these plans. And I usually go, nowadays you can create an account and a login at Medicare.gov. All your medications will be there. They keep track of it. And then you can edit your meds, and then you can do a comparison right at Medicare.gov.
You know, I was thinking, we were talking before the show, so many people get intrigued. And I was telling you this story with our own moms when we were helping them through this whole process a number of years back. Yes. You know, particularly my wife's mom really didn't have any resources past her Social Security check. And so it became really important that we got her into a zero premium plan. Yes. And we also got into that time of year where they call it the donut hole, because she had some serious medication she had to work with. And, you know, I mean, we were stepping up to make sure that that was happening, because it got pretty serious at that time of year financially.
Correct.
And you can't make those things go. But one of the things that I've heard you talk about is that even though it seems like we have a lot more options today than we did. This was like 2015 we're talking about. Right. Even though we have a lot more options today, you always say that you sit down and you make sure people understand a Medicare supplement first, and then you also talk about the plans. Why is that?
Because a Medicare supplement, there's different plans. There's a K, there's an N, there's a G. They all have their good purpose, but you can go to any doctor in the entire country that takes original Medicare. Okay. No network, no referrals, no pre-authorization. Okay. You just go where Medicare goes. Yeah. So I think a majority of people would prefer that over a network, like an Advantage plan. So I show both. We go over both. There's good and bad to both. But I'd say the majority of people probably end up with some type of Medicare supplement, usually.
Well, and I remember Joe Steckler, our president, talking about this. He said, particularly because we have so many snowbirds here, right? Yes. It's one thing like if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you're traveling, correct, something pops up, you're going to be able to get coverage for what you need on a sort of an emergency basis.
It is emergency basis, correct.
Right. But if you're actually living like, I have a summer home in Michigan and I come down here in the winter, that doesn't work.
No. So then if I have a second residence, if you have a supplement, it follows you to that other state. You can see every doctor that takes Medicare. And you come right back, see every doctor down here that takes Medicare.
So I'm saying Barbara McIntyre with Reverse Mortgage Funding. One of the things I did not know that Jerry was educating me on before we started the radio show was, we have, it's not a secret that one of the big names down here is Health First. I mean, their names are on the hospitals. They have maybe one of the biggest networks of doctors and different things. Mm-hmm. Certainly not the only ones. Right. But I think what I thought was, the only way you could access Health First services was if you were on one of their plans. You said, no, Kerry, that's not how that works.
That is true. So you can access those doctors with original Medicare.
Okay.
as your primary and a supplement as secondary. The majority of those doctors take Medicare also,
Right.
along with a Medicare Advantage plan with Health First. So you could have either or. So if I meet somebody and they're kind of on the bubble of a Medicare Advantage plan or maybe a supplement, we could look at a Plan K as in kitten. You have copays with that plan, but you can still go to any doctor that takes Medicare, including Health First.
Right. And so the advantage to that then is that you could choose a Health First doctor if you thought that was right for you, but
Correct.
you're not limited.
No.
Am I saying that right?
That is correct. I can go to any doctor. I go to any doctor in Brevard County that takes original Medicare.
Okay.
Yes.
So now when we see these commercials on TV, because
Mm-hmm.
you turn it on. I guarantee you, if we had a TV in the studio right now, we flipped it on and we just flipped 2 channels, we'd be there seeing somebody go, we know him, he's famous, and he's
Yes.
going to tell us why we need to get insurance through his 800 number.
Right.
And I'm not making fun of that.
No.
I'm just like, same thing we said before. They don't know Brevard County. They don't know the circumstances
Right.
the way that somebody who is local and committed to Brevard County knows the medical lay of the land, knows where things are and all that.
Yes.
But when you see those, they always talk about, but you can get money back. We can give you a card. You can go buy other stuff, maybe buy some groceries. What does all that mean?
Well, there are plans that will give money back towards your Social Security check. But what I've noticed over the years, when they give that money back, they got to cut somewhere else. So they get a dollar amount from the federal government, and then they have to use that dollar amount to manage your health care.
Right.
So when they give $100 and something back to your Social Security, what I've noticed is sometimes they won't pay the doctors as well as they could have. So then their network isn't quite as large as what I've seen in the past. So there's good and bad. I've met people, they don't go to the doctor, and all they want is that money going back to the Social Security. That's fine. And I've run into that too. But to the large majority of people, I would say they want help when they need it. When tragedy strikes, like a cancer or something desperate, they want to go to the best doctors on the planet. And that's really what a Medicare supplement or a Medigap plan will offer you. I can go to Shands, I can go to Mayo, I can go to MD Anderson, I can go to cancer care centers, I can go wherever I want because they all take original Medicare.
Okay. Now, I've also heard a lot of people talk about, like, there's a lot of income things based, right? Like some people are able to access anyone over 65, if I'm saying this right, is able to access Medicare, but certain people based on their finances can also access Medicaid, and somehow all that can work together.
That is true. And I help you kind of determine that also. So Medicaid is all based on income and assets. So if you have a certain income and a certain assets base, you could get maybe what they call QMB, which is full Medicaid, or you can get what they call LIS or extra help. Those are good programs too. They'll help a lot of times pay your Part B premium of Medicare, and they'll also help you with your drug copays.
Yeah. So we live on the Space Coast, and we joke about we actually just launched a rocket to the moon last night. Yay!
Amazing.
Was that not cool?
Oh my goodness, that was awesome.
I know. I've talked with Barbara McIntyre many times. I'm a space nerd, and I just thought that was so cool to run out in the backyard and watch it and go like. And it was cool because I look up in the night sky and I see the rocket. And I see the moon. I go, that rocket is going to that moon. How cool is that?
That was cool.
That was so cool. Well, I didn't mean to get us off. Get us off the subject. But my point where I was trying to bring us back to was as we talk about things that are happening here in the Space Coast and ways that you would get coverage and how it might work for you. There's a lot of dynamics that we really have to talk about, right? So when we get this stuff in the mail or we call somebody on 800 number, their job is to close us on whatever their offer is. It's not necessarily that is this in our best interest. One of the things that you, as an independent agent, you really have the ability to shop a plethora of options and guide somebody, because you really don't care like, well, if I place them here or if I place them here, I just want the right thing for the person I'm trying to help, right?
That is totally true. I've actually done business with people and I didn't make a nickel. But you know what? I helped them out.
Yeah.
I got them on the right track, got them on the right plan, and it all comes back to me. I don't have to.
No.
Like-minded is
I've heard
Exactly.
that from Barbara over and over. She's so generous with her time.
Yes.
obviously at the end of the day, it's the business part only comes into play as if she can help you with a reverse mortgage. But I've seen her be so generous with her time, and I'm hearing you the same. Like
Yes.
you see, that's the passion that Joe inspires in the people who are connected to helping seniors, where
Absolutely.
we understand it's a business,
Right.
And obviously business has to get done. But the point is it the right business for the senior? I
Right.
mean, that's really always the question, right?
That is true. Yeah, I can walk away knowing I did the best thing for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether I made money or I didn't make money. It all comes back to me.
It does.
Yes.
I know.
So
great.
I guess the question is, though, why do we think we have to do this on our own? I mean, are we, it's like we'd be afraid of sales pressure. Maybe, I think that's a reason why people don't pick up a phone and call and say, I need, maybe they're afraid, or maybe they're embarrassed. Like, I know when I talk to experts like you guys, I end up feeling kind of dumb because I don't know all this. Like the reason I launched off on NASA was because we live in the world of acronyms, and here you are, you're talking
Right.
QMB and LIS,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, okay, launch the rocket. I don't know. How do we get people over that fear of getting help when it's so readily available from people who really do care?
Just work with a good agent.
Yeah.
That's what I got to say. I mean, there are some really good agents in Brevard.
Yeah.
They'll help you just like I do, but you want to go with somebody. This is all I do, so I know all the programs, I know all the plans. I can help navigate. It really comes down to your doctors you want to go to, and if you ended up in the hospital, what hospital would you want to go to? Those are really, and then your medications. That's the third factor. But those are the main factors on determining. Do I go with a supplement or do I go with a Medicare Advantage plan?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I really hadn't thought about it until you brought it up, about the fact that you really need to investigate the supplement, even if you say, I really want to keep my out-of-pocket monthly cost to a minimum. You still need to look at every option that you have available so you can make the wisest decision, right?
Yes, correct. Exactly. So when I meet with somebody, I do show both for that reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're really, their future they're looking for. The other thing is people sometimes will get into these zero premium plans based on their health today.
Oh,
Well, we don't know what's on the road for somebody.
right.
And if it suddenly health gets a little worse, then they want to get out of those plans and get into a Medigap or a supplement, and they can't qualify.
Let me ask you about that, too, because I know there's a lot of emphasis on this December 7th date, and there's a lot of reason to pay attention to it. But I also know that you are able to help people throughout the year, and people will come to you for a number of reasons. I think there's isn't there a panic button window after the first, like, is there any option, like I made a choice and get into January, I'm like, oh Lord, this is not going to work.
Yeah, there could be. Yes.
Okay.
There's actually another enrollment period. They call it OEP. Goes from January 1 to March 31st, and it allows you to get out of an Advantage plan and go to a supplement or an original Medicare. It's a little window of time. You can't go from MA to MA in that period.
So you could not go like, well, I have it through Company A, and I just want to go Medicare Advantage plan with Company B. That doesn't work.
No, but right now it does until December 7th. After that, then the other, they call it OEP, January to March 31st.
Okay.
You can change from a MAPD to a Medigap or original Medicare.
NASA.
Hey, you're right.
MAPD.
What is that?
Or better yet, just call Jerry.
Yeah, I like that. I think Barbara said it right. Let's call Jerry Hadlock Jr. Before we're still going to talk for another minute, but before we get too far, I want to give everybody a moment to grab a pencil and paper so they can jot down a number and say, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I really need to get on this. And I need to do it before December 7th
Right.
because timing is everything.
Right.
How do people reach you, Jerry?
Typically by my cell phone. It's with me all the time. That's area code 321-720-4526. You can also text to that same number. That's area code 321-720-4526.
It's good because, again, Barbara and Jerry, as we've been talking about, there is so much good information available from experts who care and are willing to guide. And, Nancy's come up with the term. She really helped us define what we do. People say, what do you guys do as a service? And she finally helped put a great name to it. She says it's really senior navigation. What we're trying to do is help you move down the road. One of the attorneys, elder law attorneys who works with us a lot, her name is Amy B. Van Fossen. She has an excellent senior law firm that is very involved in everything from estate planning to healthcare surrogate, all the kind of paperwork that you would need. And one of the things that I've heard her say often, and it makes so much sense, she goes, for most of the families who come in, they may be dealing with probate, they may be dealing with whatever the situation is. She goes, this is like once, twice, maybe a couple of times in somebody's lifetime, right? Because you're up against this. Now you got to make these choices. What's the right thing to do? Right. She goes, for us, it's like 30 or 40 a week. So you just think about the expertise. So like when you're talking about you've been doing this for 13 years, when I think about Barbara McIntyre helping people with reverse mortgages for all these years, this ain't y'all's first rodeo.
No, that's right. Not at all.
You've probably seen and done it all, so you're really in a good position to offer some wisdom to people who are like, well, here's my situation, if they'll just open up and share with you.
Correct. Right. Exactly. And just call me. I'll help you any way I can. I'll answer any question you may have. If I don't know the answer, I'll go find it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as we get towards the wind up here, Jerry, so I'm going to give everybody a second to grab a pencil. This is radio, so I understand.
Right.
You could be driving. You need to pull over. You need to grab for that notepad near you. But let's get these numbers down, because I think, like we've been talking about, timing is everything. So Jerry Hadlock Jr. is who we've been speaking to about Medicare. Been doing this for, you said 13 years, and this is all you do. This isn't like you're moonlighting just because it's the time of year. You've got this stuff down cold.
Yes.
How do people reach you?
You can reach me by my cell phone at area code 321-720-4526.
And again, you can also text that number, because so that's a great way to get in touch with Jerry Hadlock Jr. And Barbara McIntyre with Reverse Mortgage Funding. Same question. Somebody's been hearing us talk about this, and that the timing could be the right moment to explore reverse mortgage. So how do they reach you again?
Very easily at 321-259-7880.
Yeah, thank you guys both for sharing your expertise. I've left us a couple of minutes, because I always like to wind up, if we can, with something kind of fun. So this knocks this checks off a couple of boxes. So this is a fundraiser for helping seniors, but it's a fun fundraiser. The car raffle is a fun fundraiser, but this is another dimension, and it's funny because we started it not specifically because it was a fundraiser. We thought it would answer one of the questions that comes up so frequently in terms of senior needs, and that's of socialization. One of the big, especially through COVID, where everybody was so isolated, everybody wants to get back together. So one of the gentlemen who's on our volunteer advisory board, his name is Chris Morse. In his own words, he's been a travel agent since dinosaurs roamed the earth, which actually means 1982. So he's been doing this for all of his adult career, and just before COVID, his timing was perfect. He goes, let's start a Helping Seniors travel club. Right. And so while we had purposed ourselves to have a Helping Seniors cruise, that was a fundraiser to get our foundation going. We had to move that date 5 times. We finally got to go sailing October of last year, and we had our first annual Helping Seniors cruise. We sail right in and out of Port Canaveral on beautiful MSC ships because they give us a great deal, great value for the money, and they're willing to contribute back into the Helping Seniors organization. Nice. So we went out with 50 people that first time, and everybody had a great time and said, when do we do it again? So the second annual Helping Seniors Foundation Cruise, and you have 2 dates you can pick for, January 6th, which is a 2-night sailing, or January 8th, which is a 7-night sailing, or come along with us for both sailings for 9 nights. He's negotiated an unbelievable price. It benefits the work of Helping Seniors. You're going to be sailing with people from Brevard County. So that means, you meet nice people on a cruise, you have lunch with them, and then you say, let's stay in touch. So now you're Facebook buddies. But this is like great because you get home, you say, let's have lunch next week. And so it really solves the socialization thing too. You don't have to get on an airplane, fly to a cruise port, or figure out how to get down to Miami or something. It's right here out of our home port of Port Canaveral. We're going sailing on the most beautiful ship, I think, ever. It's called the MSC Meraviglia. Italians have something. It's an Italian cruise line, and Italians have something about design. These are the guys who come up with Ferraris. I mean, And so the ship is absolutely beautiful. The main staircase is, how do you say that word? Swarovski crystal. I mean, it's like really elegant, and it's just a showcase kind of ship. The service is amazing. The shows are great. You're sailing with people that you know from hometown. Chris has told us already there's over 100 people on each sailing, so it's over double the size that it was last year. And I'm just going to share real quick the pricing, because if you ever do cruises, you'll understand right away what a deal this is. So you go online and they say, oh, you can go cruising for $399 for 7 nights. And then you click the next page and it says, but there's $200 taxes. But there, you keep clicking, and the price by the time you're done with it has nothing to do with that first price that brought you in. So when I tell you this price, the price is $864 for a 7-night cruise per person, double occupancy. Okay. That includes not an inside cabin, not an outside cabin, but a balcony cabin. What does that include? That includes your cruise fare. It includes your government taxes and fees. But listen to this. Even if you paid all that stuff that they told you about on the internet, then they still want to charge your credit card on board because they call it gratuities or customer service, or it's how they pay their crew, actually. So in this case, it's prepaid. So you get on the ship. You don't have that. It's included in that $864. Then you get on the ship and they say, oh, you want Wi-Fi? We can get you that. It's like $10 a day. It's included. It's already prepaid. Nice. Now listen to this. If you've ever been on a ship, iced tea, water, lemonade, it's all included. You want a soda, you want something more entertaining, that's on your dime. And they start hitting your credit card $10 a shot. So now that's included. So you got to call us, 321-473-7770. Ask about the Helping Seniors Cruise. Thanks, guys, for being with us today on Helping Seniors Radio. We'll see you next week.
All right.